So this morning, I have learned something new that it's not something new, but I've been able to make a connection with something that I've known for a long time with a scripture in Revelation that I have not been able to make the connection before. So in a sense, yes, I have learned something new. And this is concerning, folks, this goes to this Easter thing that's coming up in the next 2 weeks. This idolatrous replacement of the Last Supper. All right. So, what I want to do is go straight to Revelation 13. I'm going to read through the whole chapter here because it is necessary to get context. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. What sea was that? That would have been the Mediterranean Sea, folks. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. I've talked to you extensively about the 7 heads and the 10 horns, who they were. I have, for the most part, been able to identify each and every one of them. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet was as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So, if you read the book of Daniel, you'll see clearly that the leopard was Greece, and that the bear was a Persian empire. The lion was Babylon, king of Babylon, right? And so this beast has all of these elements in it. It's like all of them. It's Babylonish. It has roots in Persia and Greece, especially Greece, the Hellenes, etc. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? And it was given unto him at mouth speaking great things, and blasphemies, and power was given unto him for 42 months. To do what? What did he do in those 42 months? That was the destruction of Jerusalem, you see. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy, not against God, but against Jehovah, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and there to dwell in heaven. Well, this is exactly what Nero did, and all of those who came after him, who sit on the imperial seat of the Caesars. Today, who is the one who sits on the imperial seat of the Caesars? They call him Francis today. That's not even his real name. These folks that are in Rome today, they have faked and counterfeited their way through everything. And it was given unto him to make war with the Kodesh. The Kodesh is the Jews. For what? 3.5 years, 42 months. The war started at 67 CE. And the destruction of Jerusalem began at 70 CE and ended sometime in 74. It was 3.5 years when the war ended, fulfilling the 7 years, the 7 the 1:7 of Daniel 9, in verse 27. Okay? And to overcome them, and power was given him over all the kindreds and tongues and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth will worship him. And they did, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have a ear, let him hear. Hear what? Listen carefully. He that takes into captivity is going to go into captivity. He that killed with a sword must be killed with a sword, because this is what the faithful Kodesh are patiently waiting for. They're waiting for the vengeance of the destruction of Jerusalem. I know you Christians, you want to hide that truth. You want to claim it's something else. But if you want to wallow in your own delusions, that's your problem. That's not my problem. Okay? Now it says, and I beheld another beast coming out of the Eretz. So this one came out of the Mediterranean Sea. First one. All right? This one comes out of the Eretz. What is the Eretz is the land. Now I have said before that I think that the Eretz is referring to the Byzantines who took Jerusalem later and started their own lying wonders at Jerusalem. The lying wonder I speak of is called the heavenly fire that the Orthodox Church, the Byzantines, deceived the people with to this day. And that particular lying wonder is mentioned right here. So he makes fire come down from the sky on the earth in the sight of men. And all you have to do is go look up the, let's see, miracle, the holy fire. There it is. Okay? Describe Orthodox Christians as a miracle that occurs every year at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. You see. So that is the lying wonder that is spoken of in Revelation 13. Now, there is something interesting that is written here that I should have noticed before, but I did not make the connection. And deceive them that dwell upon the earth by the means of those lying wonders which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. Now, it is very likely, this takes a little bit of guesswork here, but this could also be speaking of Rome up to the time when the man at the Vatican became Christianized, so to speak. And this could be after as well. So we do need to keep an open mind, but we do notice that there are things that are parallels. The one is that fake heavenly fire, that holy, as they call it, the holy fire. All right, and that they should make an image to the beast. Well, we know what that image is now. All right? They call it Jesus Christ, or Hesus Christos, a name that's been around long before Yehoshua the Messiah. which had a wound by a sword and did live. Now, that one right there, a lot of people, we've speculated a lot on that, but I think we may have missed something. Here's what I mean. Had a wound by a sword and did live. This guy, Tammuz. The mark of Tammuz is a cross. We all know this. Those of you who don't know it, you better start paying attention. All right? This is one of the first ones right here, the Egyptian one. Now, this Tammuz did have many names. So what I want to go ahead and do is I want to show you something. I want to make sure, let's do this. How did Tammuz die? In reference to the verse in Ezekiel 18 verse 4, which states, "And the women sat weeping over Tammuz." Many commentaries try to explain who Tammuz was. Among the opinions brought, and perhaps the most detailed, was that of Rambam. In More Nevuchim 3 verse 29, here is a translation of the Rambam. One of the idolatrous prophets named Tammuz called upon the king to worship the 7 planets and 12 constellations of the zodiac, whereupon the king killed him in a dreadful manner, aka with a sword. All right. The night of his death, the images from all parts of the land came together in the temple of Babylon and was devoted to the image of the sun, the great golden image. All right. Which was suspended between heaven and earth and came down in the midst of the idolatrous Babylonish temple, and surrounded by all the other images, commenced to mourn for Tammuz and to relate what had befallen him. All the images cried and mourned the whole night. At dawn they flew away and returned to their temples in every corner of the earth. Hence the regular custom arose for the women to weep, lament, mourn, and cry for Tammuz on the first day of the month of Tammuz. Now, the Jews in their Hebrew calendar erroneously still call one of their months Tammuz, which they should not do. It is a form of idolatry, which is forbidden. Now, so if you want to, he is also known as Dumuzi, the name of an ancient Near Eastern deity. A herdsman idol, you see. Very interesting. So, we'll look at this again. This one had 2 horns like a lamb, and spoke as a dragon, and exercised all the power of the first beast before him, causing the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Now, like I said, some people, you can make the argument concerning Napoleon dethroning the man at the Vatican, and Hitler and Mussolini putting him back in his place. You can make that case. But as I remember correctly, I don't think Napoleon killed the man at the Vatican. He just put him in prison, if I remember correctly. Okay? So this is the reason why you have to keep an open mind, folks. This Tammuz fellow, he was killed, apparently was killed with a sword, based upon evidence that I'm seeing here. The article that I just read. But look at this. In Assyrian adoration, Tammuz was incorporated into the Hellenic pantheon as Adonis, a beautiful youth who earned the love of Aphrodite. The concepts of death and resurrection are tied to the myth of Tammuz, which foreshadowed the central role of the resurrection in the religion of Christianity. Now, do you see what's going on here? Fakery. Fakery. You see, folks, right here he talks about lying wonders. If I go to Strong's Concordance, it should pull up lying wonders. Okay. Great signs. Okay. It doesn't say lying right here, but it does imply it somewhere in here. Deceived them that dwell on the earth by means of those wonders. You see, lying wonders. When you use the word deceive, by default, it's lying wonders, which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the land that they should make an image of the beast. It says in English to the beast, but it's of the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. So what was the image that they made? Answer: Tammuz, the one who was killed by a sword and did live, as we just read. Now, some claim that that he got killed in some other way, but according to the Jewish text, he was killed by a king, which means he was killed by the sword. And they have him being resurrected from the dead. The concept of death and resurrection are tied to the myth of Tammuz, which foreshadows the central role of resurrection in the religion of Christianity. So what you see here is a whole bunch of fakery. You see, these practices of Tammuz came long before Yehoshua the Moshiach, and was a fraud, a fake of what was to come in the future. And as we read in Revelation 13, you will see there's a whole bunch of fakery going on here. Deception and fakery. When you have two horns like a lamb and speaks as a dragon, that's talking about fakery. Deception. And when you have to make this fake fire come out of the sky, and you can read about this, how it first came about, it was fakery. In 1009, Fatimid Caliph Ali Hakim, whatever his name is, ordered the destruction of the Holy Sepulchre and its associated buildings, apparently outraged by what he regarded as the fraud practiced by the monks in the miraculous descent of the holy fire. It was a fraud. And they made an image of Tammuz right here. They call him Jesus, Hesus, whatever, right? We obviously know what this image is, don't we? You can read the book, The Two Babylons, The Sign of the Cross, by Alexander Hislop. He goes into great detail about this, okay? You can, Let's see here. On a whole section, he's talking about the X here. There is not the slightest allusion to any cross, to anything but the simple name of, and he even used the name of Christos. You listened to my videos and you learned where the name Christos came from. All right? So when we come to examine the standard of Constantine, we find the accounts of both authors fully borne out. We find that the standard bearing on it these very words, Hac signo victor eris. In this sign you shall be a conqueror. What sign was that? The sign is X, with a sword pushed down through it. Now the X is a cross. All right. And having been addressed from heaven to the emperor, has nothing at all in the shape of a cross but the letter X. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. The letter X. All right, watch. Which one is it? Is it Andrew? What these people? There it is. All right. That's a cross, folks. How is it that people are so delusional they cannot see what's right in front of their faces? An X is essentially a cross in 3D, if you want to look at it that way. But my, oh my, oh my, I don't know if I want to get involved in too much in this book, The Two Babylons. There's probably just as much delusion in this particular article. But anyway, you can see where the cross comes from. It comes from Tammuz, the T. They even some even considered it as a tree of life, compared us with the language of Rome applied to the cross, and it will be seen exactly is the coincidence in the office of the cross. It is called the tree of life, and the worshippers are taught to address it in this way. And you can read this. I'm not going to say it. So just like I pointed out yesterday concerning Martin Luther and the Lutheran Church, saying that they only worship the cross, same here with the Catholics, right? Now, as I said yesterday, all Protestantism came directly from the Lutheran Church, and the Lutheran Church came directly from the Catholic Church. All right? And you can read some of this if you want to, but remember, this guy here is still deluded. He still doesn't know the truth. And it goes back to a scripture I showed you yesterday in Proverbs, that you must continue to study, because if you don't, you're going to lose all the knowledge that you've already had, that you've already accumulated. Okay? And a lot of times these guys, when they go and write their books and make money off of it, they stop. They stop studying because they made their money. And so they'll slip back eventually into idolatry. All right, enough of that. And I think I've had enough of that and that. Just want to see if there's anything else. Where is this located at? Where did that come from? cross of tall symbol derives its name from the Greek letter that resembles. Its T shape was believed to represent an ancient form of the crucifix. The cross of tall was regarded as a symbol of salvation due to its connection between the tall and the biblical mark placed on the forehead of the people destined to be saved, as mentioned in Ezekiel 9 verse 4, set a mark on the forehead of the men. Very strange. Ezekiel 9 verse 4, I don't think it says that. Let's see. Because they always like to get scriptures taken out of context. Ezekiel 9. That's not what it says. Where did I see that? Ezekiel 9 and verse 4. All right. We'll just go to Strong's Concordance. 9 and verse 4. All right. This was concerning idolaters. Now, he says, let's see. He proclaimed in my ear with a loud voice, saying, cause them to have charge over the city to draw near, every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lies at the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, and a writer's inkhorn by his side. They went in and stood outside the brazen altar. And the glory of Elohim of Israel was gone from the cherub, whereupon he was on the threshold of the house. That would be the temple. And he called the man in linen, clothed in linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Jehovah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, go through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark on the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that has been done in the midst thereof. Sigh and cry for all the idolatry. And to the others he said in my hearing, go you after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have you pity. Slay utterly the young, both maids and little children and the women, but come not near any man. Which is this mark? What is this mark? Is it the cross? You better know what mark you put on your forehead, folks. And then they began at the ancient men which were but before in front of the house, and said unto them, defile the house, fill the court with the slain, go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. And it came to pass as they were slain, and I was left, that I fell upon my face and cried out and said, Adonai, Jehovah, will you destroy all the residue of Israel in your pouring forth of your fury upon Jerusalem? And he said unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Yehudah is exceedingly great, and land is full of blood. You see, this is one of the things that comes along with idolatry. This is how you know that your mark is wrong, that your religion is wrong. The bloodshed that follows. Just take a look at Christianity. Throughout the past 2,000 years, as I have showed in my videos, nothing but bloodshed. Yehoshua said that a good tree cannot produce bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. He says, but the bad tree produces briars and thorns. What do briars and thorns do? They draw blood. So even by that concept, Christianity is nose deep in bloodshed. We know this from history. And the cities are full of perversion. What do you think is going on today? Our Christian cities around the world are full of perversion. That's how you know that they are wallowing in idolatry. For they say, Jehovah has forsaken the Eretz, and Jehovah doesn't see anything. As for me also, my eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their own head. Now, as I pointed out, using Romans 11 as an example, Paul said that, how is it? I'll go there. Paul said these words here to the Romans. You know, this is after Israel was cut off, right? And if some of the branches being broken off and you being of a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and jointly with them, jointly, partaking jointly, I hope you can see, jointly a co-partner with Israel, of the root and the fatness of the wild olive tree, of the olive tree, boast not against those branches, boast not against Israel. Because if you boast the root, you do not bear the root, but the root bears you. You will say, then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and you now stand by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. Because if Jehovah spared not the natural branches, as we just read, take heed lest he also not spare you either. Look at the severity and the goodness of Jehovah, on which them fell severity, but towards you goodness, if you continue in his goodness. If you don't, you will be cut off likewise. So you better know what you're putting on your forehead, and if you're putting on the mark of Tammuz, this mark either this way or this way, as a plus sign or as an X, it is still a cross. It is still the mark of Tammuz. This is also a mark of Tammuz right here. They call it a taw. And those of you who think that the taw is a mark of salvation, you are absolutely wrong. It is the mark of the beast. It is the mark of the beast, and it goes both ways. It goes as a plus sign and as an X. All you're doing is you're taking the one symbol and you're turning it just a few degrees. You can read this. The cross is a pagan symbol. All right, I'm not going to go through all of that, but most of the time they'll put that on their right hand and not on their left hand, but they're quoting here, I am Jehovah, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. Now I want to point out something to you, that this W, just a mere several hundred years ago, used to be pronounced as a V. Okay, so it's still Jehovah. Okay, you shall make no idols nor graven images, neither shall you rear up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am Jehovah your Elohim. You shall not make unto you any graven images or any likeness of anything which is in heaven above or in the earth beneath or that is in the waters below. Now, this is the point that I've been making. These people are making the same point. The cross symbol image has been used for generations to conquer, kill, and overtake many nations. Now, I don't think I need to go to that scripture. You should know this by now about the a bad tree and a bad vine produces thorns and thistles draw blood. You know this. That's elementary. The so-called church has taught that a cross is a holy sacred symbol and that the Savior, but they don't use the name Yehoshua, they use the false name Jesus because it is the English version of Tammuz, the sun, in honor of the sun. But historical scripture research clearly states it was on a tree in Acts 5 and verse 30. I pointed this out before. The cross was originally the letter T for Tammuz, the son and husband of Semiramis, the goddess of fertility or the queen of heaven. In the scriptures, in Jeremiah is how the English say it. The English then took the Egyptians then took the T symbol and added their fertility egg symbol to the top and called it the Ankh. All right, this. Well, if I can get a picture. But you can look up the Ankh cross. A cross surmounted on a loop and known in Latin as crux ansata. As a vivifying talisman, the Ankh is often held or offered by gods and pharaohs. The form of the symbol derived from the sandal trap as a cross that has been extensively used in the symbolism of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Why would you Christians do this? Why? Don't you realize that just like according to what was written in the book of Ezekiel, that it's going to get you killed? And finally, and I agree with this assessment, many black people perceive the wearing of the Christian cross as a symbol of being among the blessed. However, it's actually evidence of being amongst those who are still mentally slaved by Europeans. I completely agree with that assessment. And yes, Osiris and Jesus, Tammuz, they're all essentially the same. And it is the beast that was wounded to death with a sword, but still did live. That's what it is. All right. Now I wanted to continue. I didn't want to go down this rabbit hole too far because I want to address some other things as well here. Now, as I pointed out, all these religions celebrate this Queen of Heaven, Semiramis, and Tammuz, Nimrod, however you want to call them, Jesus, Hesus. How do Catholics and Orthodox, Anglicans, Baptists, Pentecost, and others celebrate this feast? Well, as I pointed out to you just yesterday, that they will always keep it on the Roman calendar, therefore making it by default pagan. You have to first start with the Hebrew calendar, non-pagan. But none of them, zero, use the Hebrew calendar. The Gregorian calendar, the Papish calendar, the calendar of the beast. For Catholics and Anglicans, Easter was celebrated after 40 days of penance called Lent, which began with Ash Wednesday to commemorate 40 days. No, it does not commemorate 40 days and 40 nights of anyone, except something that is false. So they all do it. Orthodox Christians do it. Orthodox Christians have a tradition of laying Easter eggs and bread on the graves of the deceased relatives that mark the resurrection. Oh, man. This is all goes back to that ancient Queen of Heaven and her. I think I'll just have to go to the scripture and look it up. How far is this? Is a whole chapter. And I went through Jeremiah 7 yesterday, so I think I'll go ahead and go with Jeremiah 44 today. What happened to Strong's Concordance? Wow. Okay. Won't even. Oh, here we go. Finally. So this was the judgment on the people, I guess when they fled to Egypt. After the destruction of Babylon, I guess it was. So I'll start in, should I start in verse 20? No, I'll start right here in verse 15. And all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense to other idols, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah and said, As for the word that you have spoken unto us in the name of Jehovah, we will not listen to you, but we will certainly do whatever it is that comes forth out of our own mouth to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her. And as we have done, and as our fathers and our kings and our princes in the cities of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem, for them we had plenty of victuals, and we were well, and we saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have lacking everything, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. And then when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make cakes to her to worship her and pour out the drink offering unto her without our men? All right. So this is what you're going to do. These are the cakes. Hot cross buns. That's what you're going to do. Then Jeremiah said to all the people, to the men and the women, and to all the people which had given him that answer, saying, The incense that you burn in the cities of Yehudah, in the streets of Jerusalem, you and your fathers, your kings and your princes, and the people of the land did not, or Jehovah remember him, and it came into his mind, so that Jehovah could no longer bear because of the evil of your doings, and because of the abominations which you have committed. Therefore your land is a desolation and an astonishment and a curse, without a habitant to this day. because you have burned incense and because you have sinned against Jehovah and have not obeyed the voice of Jehovah, nor walked in his Torah, nor in his statutes, nor in his testimonies. Therefore this evil has happened unto you to this day. Moreover, Jeremiah said unto the people and to all the women, listen to the word of Jehovah. All Yehuda are in the land of Egypt. And thus says Jehovah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, saying, you and your wives have both spoken with your mouths and fulfilled with your hands, saying, we will surely perform our vows which we have vowed to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, and you surely will accomplish your vows and surely will perform your vows. Therefore listen to the word of Jehovah, all Yehuda that dwell in the land of Egypt. Behold, I have sworn by my great name, said Jehovah, that my name shall no more come out of the mouth of any man of Yehuda in all of Egypt, saying, Jehovah, or Adonai, Jehovah lives. Okay? I will watch over them for evil and not for good, and all the men of Yehuda that are in the land of Egypt shall be consumed with the sword and by the famine until there be an end of them. Yet a small number shall escape the sword and shall return out of the land of Egypt into the land of Yehuda, and all the remnant of Yehuda that have gone into the land of Egypt to sojourn there shall know. Those words shall stand. They're going to know which words are going to stand, his or theirs. Okay, and this shall be a sign unto you, says Jehovah, that I will punish you in this place, and you may know that the words shall surely stand against you for evil. Thus saith Jehovah, behold, I give Pharaoh Hophra, king of Egypt, into the hand of his enemies, and into the hand of them that seek his life, just like I gave Zedekiah, the king of Yehuda, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, his enemy that sought his life. That's how he's going to do it. They thought they were going to escape the king of Babylon by going to Egypt, and then they started doing their hot cross buns. And what was it? Even, was it the Hutterites? Okay, I got to do a little bit of looking. I think that's it. Yes. Wait a minute. There it is, right here. That's what I was looking for. Communion bread. Now, this is even among the more conservative Hutterites. So Hutterites are Anabaptists, and this is another thing that you Anabaptists, you are stuck in the same wickedness, the same idolatry that the whole Catholic Church is in. It's early April, and the trees are wearing their first flush of green as I walk towards the minister's house in the South End Colony. I'm here to celebrate Easter, the most sacred holiday of the year. All right? I'm going to see if I can find their bread. Somewhere down in here. Okay. So on Palm Sunday, yes, they observe Palm Sunday. They reject anything having to do with Jehovah, and instead follow the Roman calendar, the calendar of idolatry. Right here. Hutterites quite possibly make the best communion bread in the world. Unlike the flat, unleavened crackers served at many communion services in North America, the communion bread of the Hutterite is decadent. Edna uses the colony bun dough recipe and enriches it with cream, beaten egg whites, and extra sugar. The result is a large, light loaf that tastes as creamy as a custard. On Palm Sunday, Edna removes the crust that take the loaves to the church. She prepares a communion table with a special white linen cloth used for this occasion. The wine steward sets a communion table with a gallon of Concord grape wine, which is served from the 4 white crockery jugs. The bread and the wine symbolize the body and the blood of Christ, which it does. Jesus Christ, or Jesus Christos. But unleavened bread, the flat bread, represents Yehoshua. And no round wafer does not represent Yehoshua. The round wafer represents the sun god, Hesus, Jesus, Tammuz, whatever his name is. You can ask why it's round. So why is Catholic communion bread round? Sacrament bread, right? Trying to figure out why it's round. Well, I already know why it's round, but I was just looking to see if I could if there's a documentation there. But it's obvious it's in honor of the sun, folks. So Protestantism, there's a wide variety of practices, including sacramental bread use. Some use, such as Christian congregation use leavened loaves of bread. Others, such as Lutherans, continue to use unleavened wafers like the Roman Catholics, and some use matzah. Reformed Christians use rolls, which are broken and distributed to symbolize. You don't break rolls, you tear them. You see, see if there's any, I think. All right, I think that 1 Corinthians 5 or 7 will do. Strong's. Your glorying is not good. Don't you know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, so that you can be unleavened, even as the Mashiach, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven or ancient leaven, not with hot cross leavened buns, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So when you keep this feast, which is the Last Supper, which is going to be in the next couple of days, and you Christians are all going to keep your own version, a fake and fraudulent versions, all the Anabaptists, all the Protestants, and all the Catholic religions, including the Orthodox, are going to keep it on, or they're going to keep a false, counterfeit version of it. Unleavened. And it needs to be on the correct, as much as you can, on the correct day. You especially do not want to use the Roman idolatrous calendar. Because if you do, and by default, your offering, so to speak, will be rejected. Now, Anabaptists, Amish, Mennonite, they all do the same thing. It's all on the same wrong names, wrong days. Easter, Ishtar is the queen of heaven that Jehovah talked about in Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah 44. All right? So all of them do it. All of them. Now, she was originally worshipped in Sumer under the name Iana, or Diana, and was later worshipped by the Akkadians, the Babylonians, and Assyrians, who named her Ishtar. She was known as the Queen of Heaven and was the patron goddess of Iana Temple and the city of Uruk, which was her main cult center. Greek equivalent is Aphrodite, Athena, and of course the English equivalent, the German equivalent is Eoster, and the English equivalent is Easter. So remember this, folks, all of you who, not this week, but next week, celebrate the Queen of Heaven, Easter. Remember the curse that Jehovah put on the Jews who were in Egypt. Only a small number would escape from the sword. Only a small number of you Christians are going to escape Jehovah's wrath because you insist on worshiping the Queen of Heaven, as they say, Easter.